And welcome back to Bitcoin Advisors channel. My name is Chris, bringing it to you here from Westlake Village, California. Another beautiful Thursday morning, and I wanted to do this video a little bit after the markets opened to jump into some Bitcoin, NASDAQ price action. But before we go ahead and do that, as Bitcoin is getting a little bit of a bounce, I want to talk about some crypto news that is flying in by the moment here. First thing up, you got Solana blockchain absolutely getting murdered here. Solana suffered new network outages. Yes, they were facing downtime after production. According to data from Solana's Beach Block Explorer, Solana's validators have not processed new blocks for the last 5 hours, causing a total shutdown of all its applications. That was a recent post from Solana. And as from what I've heard, they've already back up and running, but after this whole Luna shakeout, breakout, everybody's starting to question things. And I'd imagine this puts a damper a little bit on Solana's price action, which why don't I jump in there and we'll just take a look real quick. Solana coming in at 40, looking weak. Did have a daily closure below the bottom side of the range. And typically, and daily Stokes will cross up, are crossed up. So, you know, give this one a chance to bounce. If we do break below 3770, going to have a pretty nice target coming down. I'd say something like that, down to about 26 bucks, back above 58. And I imagine we test the top side of the range here, or this last breakdown level coming in at 77.62. That's it for Solana today. And, you know, if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, right, how could you front run that decision with a daily closure back above 48,662? That's above the 0.5 on that retracement for this consolidation. But the real 0.5 from this breakdown is coming in at 65.34. So range resolution might be a better option here for Mr. Solana. Momentum on the 5-day is to the downside, And yeah, that would be a full retrace for Mr. Solana almost if it does want to break down a little bit further. One day I'm going to get the camera just right. Okay. One day the camera, the lighting, it's all going to be just right. Don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button. If you have a chance to do that, best way to give back to the channel. If you do enjoy getting some of the updates. Okay, jumping into our next piece of news. Cointelegraph said Fed money printer goes into reverse. What does that mean? It is not going burr anymore. It's hot. It's in the sauna, right? So what does that mean for the crypto markets when quantitative easing tightens? When that takes a full effect, essentially they're sucking the liquidity out of the market. They're going to raise rates and reduce the balance sheet. And Wendy Oweth, Crypto Wendy, said, quote, the worst part about this is that I would imagine 80% of Americans have no idea what quantitative tightening is. Why would we? This wasn't taught in public school. The SEC should worry about educating Americans on these terms, as I believe that's part of protecting us. Wow. Wendy O, great tweet. Love what you got to started to say that. And here's another one from Crypto Whale. Says Bitcoin has never once in its history been in a bull market. While the Federal Reserve did quantitative tightening, smart whales spent the last 12 months dumping their bags on dumb retail. The mega crash is inevitable. So bit of a naysayer there, right there. And quote, the Fed is cutting assets harder and faster than a lot of its analysts had expected, and it's difficult to imagine that this won't have some kind of impact on investor sentiment across markets. Quote, furthermore, we expect a market bounce imminently, meaning investors should be positioning portfolios to capitalize on this. So market bounce coming. Anyways, I'll leave a link in the description below for that one. That was Wendy's tweet. Here's another interesting one on Bloomberg.com. Bloomberg said, Omen backs U.S. firm mining crypto to cut gas flaring. So Omen's sovereign wealth fund took an equity stake in a U.S. firm that says it helps fossil fuel producers cut flaring by using stranded natural gas to power cryptocurrency mining. Oman Investment Authority was part of the $350 million equity round that Crusoe Energy Systems Inc. raised in April, according to a statement. So, company getting $350 million to start mining Bitcoin with their, wasted natural gas. That's pretty interesting. And last but not least, Mr. Kanye West company files multiple Yeezy trademarks, including for metaverse experiences and the NFT marketplace. So people, buying while there's blood in the streets, taking advantage or, trying to front run this metaverse thing, which, it's gone today. Sand and mana and all the metaverse stuff is down today, but will come back with a vengeance when the market turns back up, when we get back into an uptrend on the daily or the weekly time frame. And there's an easy way on how to identify a trend reversal. I'm going to put out a video, a tutorial on that, by simply just looking at price action, making higher highs and higher lows versus lower highs and lower lows. Okay, speaking of that price action, let's jump into Bitcoin right now and take a look at what we have on Bitcoin's price on the daily. And we did have a bit of a kind of fake out, pump fake, whatever you want to call it here. But I'm going to show you what I am looking at. So essentially, we had been talking about this range, call it between 30,000 to the upside and 28.5 to the downside. We broke the range. And what happened is we broke the range, came up to the 200 exponential and got rejected. And this was pretty much where you would have a rising stop loss, somewhere like that. Easy to hindsight trade, not so easy to trade in the moment. But what I am looking at here, and this is on a 4-hour time frame, the daily range, right? So we broke the daily range, and then we popped right back down into the range, which two things can happen right now. And as I did mention yesterday, would mediate it with a daily closure below 29,300, which is probably coming in right here. Yeah, right here. So as long as we're closing dailies above 29,300, I'm still looking at this move in play and for our target to get hit at the green 55 over the next week or so, and for this signal to play out. Now, as soon as daily Stokes turn to the downside, 29,129 will do it. That's slowly been rising up over the past couple of days. If daily Stokes do want to turn down to the downside, I would imagine all that bearish divergence does play out, and that's coming back all the way from this point right here and even right here, So that would be 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence. Price is making lower highs, RSI is making higher highs, and that should give us a shot to the bottom side of the range, which actually is down here. So target down here. So if 29.3, I'm just going to bring this level right here. 29,300 gets taken out to the downside on a daily time frame, I should be looking for a target down here at the bottom side of the range, and that's coming in at 26.9. Just curious, if I pull this out and do a little fib retracement, that gives you a target up there. Yeah, I do think this one still has a little bit of a chance to grind out and head higher. And what this is famously known as coming back to the scene of the crime. Here was the breakout, right? We're coming back down to test it. And as long as that region holds, I would expect the daily signal to play out on the BBWP, as well as the 5-day, which we've been talking about this as well. You know, the expansion from this low should have given us about a 40% move, which from here to here, what do you know, 43% from the ultimate high to the ultimate low. Not going to catch it perfect, right? Expansion started happening right here above the 20 percentile. So even if you caught it from right here, 40% move, not bad. Now, vice versa, Stokes are crossed to the upside on the 5-day time frame. So momentum is crossed to the upside just as it was right here, except for the opposite is happening with volatility. We have a mean reversion, very similar to what we saw back here, right? As volatility went down and Stokes crossed up, we had a bounce, and the tune of that bounce from the bottom to the high was about 37%. So where would 37% from the high put us? Yeah, right up there at 37,000, 35,000, right in that area, 35, 36,000. You know, it's not going to bounce exactly right every single time, but as volatility does come down and all these things kind of reset here, what's going to happen? And this happens over a week or 2 weeks. It doesn't happen overnight, but as this guy comes up here, right, and this guy comes down here, that's what you're seeing. So we should see kind of a mean reversion and a bit of a bounce. And again, invalidation will come. We got 2 days and 6 hours left on this candle, on this candle, on this guy, and the weekly reversal candle. Oops. And on the weekly time frame. So typically, you know, we will touch the 9 exponential. Again, this is kind of the line in the sand and a very important day or two. The week is going to close for NASDAQ. Then we're going to be coming into the weekend again, another dead zone for the stock market. And so what do I see on NASDAQ here? Did play out a bounce from this region, got up to the 9 exponential. NASDAQ held a little bit better than Bitcoin yesterday in a sense that we broke the daily range right here. We came back down, pivoted, and we're headed back up to the green 55. Which is looking really good on the daily time frame for a little bit more of a run. What do we have here on the 4 hour? This was just expanding, bouncing off the green 55. And where's the target on this one? There is some bearish divergence here. So if we do not get going from this point, that'll be 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence. If we put in a local high right here, I'd expect to move back to the bottom side of the range, and that would be from this point here. 1, 2, 3, and back to the bottom side of the range, which is going to be right here. If NASDAQ wants to close below 12,500 again on the 4 hour, really, I'd say this is the last chance of the Mohicans right here, 12,300. If we're back below there anytime on a 4 hour time frame for NASDAQ, I'm looking for this move to fail and Bitcoin to come back down. As long as NASDAQ keeps trudging its road to happy destiny onwards and upwards for this bounce play. Ultimately looking for a bounce target on NASDAQ up here at 13,123. That's the first target on the daily time frame. If we put on a weekly, do we have any divergence? That'd be 1, 2 drives, and weekly bounce can come all the way up to the 618, which is coming in here at 13,700. So, you know, first target, probably the 0.5, second target, 618, and that happens over the next week or two. May 9th, we have the CPI data coming out. So if inflation is worse than expected, what do you think that happens? What do you think happens to the stock market? Right? If inflation comes in lower than expected, what do you think happens to the stock market? Right? So kind of a couple of basic ideas to be basing your bullish or bearish bias. I would say, hey, if interest rates come in hotter than expected, bad for stocks. If inflation comes in hotter than expected, bad for stocks. If inflation comes in lower than expected, it is typically going to be good for stocks. And in a sense, good for Bitcoin. Last thing I want to check in on is the dollar, and we'll check in Bitcoin dominance. So the dollar's move is getting faded here on the weekly time frame, and the week will not close for another, 2 days? 1 day and 5 hours. So we got another week left. What what am I seeing here? A rejection. That's looking good. Declining volatility, back in the bearish control zone, almost with a bearish engulfing candle. So where could I mediate this one? Using our fib on a bearish retracement. So that's the next level down if we want to break this guy on the daily time frame. That's what I'd be looking for. However, if the dollar wants to hold up, very similar, that's what Bitcoin looks like. It's coming back to the point of crime in the scene, whatever you want to call it, the scene of the crime. And that is where, if we break back below there, you know, more conservatively, I'd say back below 101.32, then very, very likely this, you know, party on for Bitcoin, bounce to the upside probably plays out. So dollar, NASDAQ, and I guess we'll check in on Ethereum because Ethereum's been a little bit different than the rest of the market. In a sense, it has not been tracking what Bitcoin's been doing. It has been relatively weak. And however, it is playing out a similar bounce here. Basically, you know, above or below, right? So we did confirm 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence. Did that give us the move to the bottom side of the range? No. So, you know, this one's going to do whatever Bitcoin does, but probably just a little bit weaker to the upside and then more to the downside. I don't really have a great bias on Ethereum right now. However, it is more downside angled if you do ask me. We have the 4-hour silver cross to the downside, and we are putting in a bit of bullish divergence right there. Hidden bullish divergence, 2 drives, gets you a drive to the 21. So short term, you know, 4-hour maybe gets up there, but as long as we are below the 618 on the 4-hour, which is coming in at 1914, or excuse me, call it 1917. As long as we're below 1917, we're just making lower highs on the time frame. That's it. My phone's been falling all over the place today. I'll leave it off with that. Again, don't forget, help us out, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to get some more updates and be aware of kind of what's going on in the market. Every single day we cover Bitcoin, altcoins, we cover the NASDAQ, the dollar. We even look at gold every once in a while. Hope you enjoy the channel, and we will catch up with you soon. Take care.